Good morning, afternoon, evening, and welcome to Concerned Citizens Presents, a new offering on Village TV. Concerned Citizens of Laguna Woods is an organization committed to peace, social justice, economic equality, and a clean environment. For the duration of the lockdown, instead of its usual 2 meetings a month, Concerned Citizens will broadcast 2 programs a month on this channel. Our programs will feature films, lectures, and debates on topics related to our mission. We hope you enjoy today's program.
Welcome to Concerned Citizens Presents. My name is Suzanne Modell, and I chair the Concerned Citizens Program Committee, which is the body responsible for these broadcasts. Today, we are going to offer another in a series of programs that highlight the diversity of residents in Laguna Woods Village. Our guest today is Hassan Alief, engineer, entrepreneur, accountant, and author. Hassan Alief came to the United States from Afghanistan 66 years ago and has lived in Laguna Woods for 4 of them. Last year, he was elected treasurer of Concerned Citizens, which is just one of the many volunteer and professional activities that he has undertaken over his lifetime. Today, Barbara Siri is going to interview him about his fascinating country and about his personal story. Welcome, Barbara and Hassan.
Thank you, Sue. Thanks. I'm a member of Concerned Citizens in the program committee, and it is my honor to interview Hassan Alief about the history of Afghanistan and his story in that whole incredible history. So take it away, Hassan.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. I will tell the story of Afghanistan, which is an old country, and it has seen people going crisscrossing from east to west and west to east. The Silk Road, I'm sure everybody knows about it, was people from China coming all the way through Afghanistan, going to Iran and Middle East, and also to the Mediterranean countries. Afghanistan itself is a landlocked country. The capital is Kabul. Yeah. Well, that's all right. Kabul, which is about 5 million people in population right now. And there are some other cities like Kandahar in the south and Herat in the west and Mazar-e-Sharif in the north, Kunduz. They are all major cities, and also Jalalabad.
And there are about 6 countries that surround Afghanistan.
Yes, on the east side is east and south is Pakistan, and then on the way on the northeastern end of the Wakhan corridor is China. Then we have Tajikistan and Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan in the north and Iran on the west.
Just a tiny border with China there. It's interesting.
That's it, about 41 miles.
41 miles, okay.
The present government is a constitutional republic, Islamic republic, and the president right now serving is Ashraf Ghani. He is a Pashtun from southern Afghanistan and has been educated in American University in Beirut. He's been on his second 5-year term. The Afghan constitution requires that the president be elected for 5 years and then another 5 years. Then after that, they cannot do that. They have to wait 1 or 2 terms. Then they can go back and start again if they want to go.
And right, but it's a full republic. Plus, you have a free press, a true free press with multiple papers. Is that right?
That is correct. There are many papers and private papers, and also they have 75 TV stations, private TV stations now,
That are
in
free
the-
of government interference.
free of government interference all over the country.
Excellent.
The most famous one is Tulu, which is like CNN in Afghanistan.
Aha, aha.
Then we go, people themselves. On the south, we have a whole bunch of Pashtuns. They speak the language Pashto. And then in the middle is the Hazaras, which are the remnants of Genghis Khan's, which I will address later, group. And they are mixed with Caucasians, so they're mixture of Mongolian Caucasian people.
And I think you are Tajik, is that correct?
And,
Tajik?
Tajik covers all the way from northeast to southwest. And on one of them, they speak Farsi mostly.
Farsi, is that what Ashraf Ghani speaks also?
No, he speaks Pashto. Well, he's bilingual.
He is, okay.
Yeah, he's trilingual. He's fluent in English
Oh,
also.
right, I've heard him speak.
Yeah.
But this is, Pashtun is the primary power
And
group, is that
throughout
right?
history, it seems like that the Pashtuns have been ruling the country most
Okay.
often when it wasn't Greeks or the Turks or the, what do you call them? Or the Mongols.
Okay, okay.
And this is just a view of present day Islam. This is the shrine of Ali, the son-in-law and cousin to Muhammad. The Shiites think that he is buried here, but I doubt it.
But the predominant religion is Sunni Muslim, is that correct?
About 85% Sunni, and the rest are probably 10 to 15% Shiite, and another Zoroastrians and Hindus and Sikhs.
I see, okay. And you're, I think, Sunni, is that correct?
I am a
Hassan?
Sunni.
Okay.
Our brand of Sunni is a moderate form of Islam,
Mhm.
and believe in Islam. It says that there is no compulsion in religion. You're not compelled to believe in anything. You believe because you want to.
Right, yes, there's
And,
no force
you are not forced.
imposed on the population.
Yeah, and I'll address that later, why some people are trying to force things on the
Yes,
country.
right, very good. And it's a beautiful country with the Hindu Kush Mountains.
This is the heart of the country, and the highest point probably there is over 19,000 feet. And it is snow covered almost all the time. The water we get from the rivers is mostly from the snow melt,
Mhm.
because the precipitation in Afghanistan, average precipitation in the country is about 10 to 12 inches per year.
Not very much, so it's an
No.
arid land. You have to be
Yes.
careful with water.
Yes.
And then in terms of economics in the cities, they're very quite distinct from each other. So this is one sample of a neighborhood.
Yes, this neighborhood developed when people couldn't afford to buy lots down in the valley, and the government encouraged them to build there, and they're all building, and there's no mountain, no road there, so they have to come and walking up and down all the time.
Yes, I don't know if there's electricity or
There is
running.
electricity in
Okay.
most of it now, but there didn't used to be.
But downtown Kabul is a
And
fully
this is-
modern city, isn't it?
Yes, this is a result of the occupation by the US. And US did a lot of good stuff there too, helping the economy, pumping billions of dollars in the economy in the past 20 years, trying to develop the country and make it into a moderate entity.
So these high rises weren't there before the American occupation
Most
then?
of them weren't there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. I'm glad to be proud of something then, right? In
Yes, we are
Afghanistan.
proud of it.
And so Afghanistan has a very deep and long history too.
It does, and we can't cover everything, so we want to point out just a few that we think are really significant. There is a great Greek influence in Afghanistan. When Alexander the Great came in the 4th century and took over the country and established his center in Bactria. That's the Bactria province, and the little town of Balch or Bactria, as he called it. And he spent 7 years of his life there. It's amazing.
Hellenizing the area, I guess.
Yes, and for several centuries, Greeks and Greek descendants ruled the country.
Very good.
And then came this is a little bit before Islam, although this is the Buddha in Bamyan. It's a famous visitor center there for tourists. They come from all over Europe
It
and
was
America.
defaced, I guess, wasn't it, by the
Yes,
Taliban?
but the thing is that no, this was defaced by Muslims when they came over to convert Muslim.
Oh, much earlier. Oh,
Yeah,
I see. Okay.
around 7th century.
I see. Okay.
And they cut the face so that people won't be worshiping the face. And also they took their arms off. There used to be arms that moved.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You can see how small the people are. And then you're also a country of the ancient Zoroastrians.
Yeah,
I guess, the worshippers of
Zoroastrianism
fire.
started in eastern, near northeast Iran and in northwest Afghanistan.
Okay.
And there was, we call them fire worshippers. As you can see, they have a fire there.
And of course, Hindus also. So it was quite a mixture.
Well,
And then
the Buddha, you saw the
yes,
Buddhism. Buddhism, and also there later on there were Sikhs that were there.
Okay.
They came as people from India settling in Afghanistan.
and again, you're on a crossroads, so
Yeah.
lots of different ethnic
And
groups.
then came around late 700,
652.
652.
That's supposed to say current era, not BCE. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
So from the middle of the 600s onward,
Until
became-
about 900 and some, Arabians came first in Iraq in western Afghanistan, and then from there they propagated all over the country, and they ruled, or their children ruled parts of the country.
so it stayed pretty much dominating Islam
It
since
became
then.
a dominant religion,
Okay.
Islam,
Okay.
except for the little tiny enclave of Kafiristan in eastern Afghanistan,
Uh-huh.
because it was too rugged, I think, for them. and they
Oh, for
didn't go
those.
there.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
This-
fast forward to 1220.
1220, we had an invasion from the Mongols. That's Genghis Khan came over and took over central Afghanistan, near what's present Bamyan, and nearby, excuse me, there's a town of Noises, City of Noises, or Shara, which I will address a little bit later. And so he took over, and then he put his son there
Mhm.
as to rule the country at Shara or City of Noise. And he went on to conquer other areas nearby. And Afghans, true to their kind of people, they rose up against Genghis son, killed him, and then Genghis came back and took revenge and killed every living being.
Right. So there's a big price to pay for being such rebels, I guess, but you didn't want
Yes.
to be conquered.
Yes, and this
So-
is one of model Mughal emperor.
And
that
his
when
army
they-
would be pretty
and-
intimidating.
Yeah, they're called the hordes.
Well, especially with their mastery of horses also.
Yes,
And in that whole group came Tamerlane.
they're in the Mongols ruled the area for quite some time, and then Tamerlane came and took over in Afghanistan and Kabul, which is underneath here someplace.
What's so astonishing about Tamerlane's administration was how large Afghanistan became. He tripled the size of the country,
Yes, well,
all the way to the Black Sea.
wasn't called Afghanistan, but it was the country that started from the
And there
from
is the
Afghanistan.
current
Yeah,
Afghanistan,
that's
just
the
a
current- yeah.
small territory within there.
Yes.
Okay. So
And-
quite a history. And then
And
we're in the
let's go to
19th century.
19th century,
Yeah.
which the two powers, Russia and Iran, Britain, and Britain, were vying for countries taking over areas. The Tsars were coming south towards Afghanistan,
Mhm.
and the
British
British
would
was going westward
from the
to
Raj.
Afghanistan. Yeah.
And then they sliced the country up, didn't
Yes. Usually the normal, the natural border in the older days in Afghanistan was the Indus River.
they? Which is
Because-
right over
because-
to the
because this one,
farther
yes.
right. Yes, right here.
And Afghan culture predominated on the west side of this, and Indian culture on the east.
And this was carved up in Britain, which seems to be a tradition with Britain carving up half the world by Sir Mortimer
Yes,
Durand. And
Sir Mortimer Durand, he was a representative, British rep in Afghanistan for a while. And then when he went back to London, he drew this line
yeah, without
and
even being there.
without giving any attention to ethnicity, to language, to people. So there are 18 million Afghan Pashto-speaking Afghans living now in Pakistan.
So yeah, you had no say. Afghanis had no say in how their
so.
orders were
It was
defined.
just forced upon the King Abdurrahman.
Yeah, which is another tragedy. And then of
And
course the
this,
fighting.
that
Oops.
was a very good, let's go back. And it's a poor Afghan caught between the bear and the lion.
And the British lion,
The
right,
British
right.
lion.
Again, having very little say in their own autonomy
So
and
please
borders
help me from this
from
friend.
my so-called friends, right,
No,
right.
he needed an elephant.
Right, there you go. Or a good Bactrian camel.
That's good.
And then we go into the 20th century and we can see how modern Afghanistan really was.
The 1920s, that would be the freedom of Afghanistan. They were very Western oriented, and but the country wasn't ready, except for the capital, let's say.
So most of the population did not approve of
No,
flappers and
because
women.
the Islam was put in the back burner.
I see. Okay.
So
okay.
they had there was a guy, we call him Water Boy or Habibullah Kalakani. He came from the north.
He was a water boy.
He lived just 60 miles north of Kabul.
Yeah.
That's where his city was.
Uh-huh.
Came down and took over the country. And her husband, Amanullah, and they abdicated and he went to Italy, and that's where he died.
Okay. I see. I see.
And
Okay.
then let's go now. After that, his father took over after the thief overthrew the Kalakani and took over. The rulers lasted about 2.5 years or 3, but he was murdered. And then not a very good record for kingdom there.
But you do have long periods of stability,
It started in 2000.
especially Zahir Shah
Yes,
from
started
1933 for
1933
40 years.
and went on to 1967.
Well, most of the time that you lived in Afghanistan too. which
Exactly,
we're-
that was a year old. Well, I was born a year before him.
Yeah, so it was a
Yeah.
good stable time. And you can see how girls went to school, right?
Yes.
And women could wear Western clothes,
Sure.
including mini skirts.
These are the university students.
Yes, so they
Yeah.
weren't going to be intimidated by
No.
any religious.
We had to stay away from them.
But then things started changing.
Well,
In 67.
in 67, when King was in Rome,
Ah,
and then his his dear cousin Muhammad Dawood, he overthrew the government, took over the country, and we declared it a republic.
I love this guy, shady though he might have been, because he was willing to play both the Americans and the Soviets off against each other. And I love that I can light my American cigarettes with Soviet matches. I just got a kick out of him because he's so
Yeah.
irreverent and again, rebellious in your Afghani spirit of rebellion.
Yes. Unfortunately, he didn't survive. In
No, he didn't.
1973, he was overthrown by a bunch of communists,
Afghan commies.
Afghan communists, and took
Mhm.
over and made the country a People's Republic.
And his whole family, I guess, was massacred too. Is that
And
right?
they killed every
Dowd?
member of his family.
Oh, what a shame. But now
that-
you're under the influence of
Of Soviet
Afghan
Union.
communists and then the Soviets.
Yeah, then it lasted about 9 months, 9 years rather, or 6 years. And what happened is that the people they discovered that they were trying to do away with religion and also with the culture of Islam. They were bringing a lot of Russian stuff and sending thousands of Afghan children to Russia and other countries
To influence them.
to influence
So the
and
Soviets
educate.
they were not going to put up with that. And that did that pretty much
No, the
start
Afghans
the-
wouldn't put up with that.
okay.
And what
That's right.
happened is
Yes.
what happened is that the government was collapsing in 1979. So Russia came back to prop up its the client state.
And this time they brought tanks and soldiers, right?
Yes, this
Okay.
is what you can see here in it.
And
in
that was
our
a long, bloody incursion into
10
Afghanistan.
years, and they lost 50,000 of their soldiers and over 1 million Afghans fighting,
Died.
died fighting.
And the United States was involved in that too, weren't
Well,
they?
the
With
thing is,
weapons.
when in 1986, when the Afghans really started fighting the Russians, how many minutes?
One more minute for
Okay.
history.
Anyway, the U.S. came and helped the freedom fighters and armed them and gave them financial support, also support from the Gulf states.
Mhm.
And so the Russians say goodbye and left.
And left, and that left then,
Then we have the Taliban, well, not Taliban, but the Mujahideen group, and they came in and tried to take over the country, and they started fighting each other. And during that, the Taliban became the strongest and took over the country.
and of course, that was all with some of the deadliest CIA-financed weaponry that they had now
Exactly,
too, which they wouldn't have had
unfortunately,
before.
unfortunately.
And plus, they were masters at picking up and utilizing leftover Russian weaponry and ordnance, I guess, too.
That's right.
And so
That's right.
then we come to 9/11
9/11,
and the American.
and because that when the Taliban took over, they gave safe harbor to people like Al Qaeda
Right,
and
right, right.
Osama bin Laden
Correct.
and
Yeah.
Russia. When the U.S. when they did some mischief in Africa and other places, the U.S. asked them to and also to 9/11, they asked them to hand them over to them.
I
But the
see.
Taliban would do that. They were hiding in either eastern Afghanistan, western Pakistan.
Exactly. Right, right.
So the U.S. and the NATO, in cooperation, NATO decided to go in and get rid of Taliban, which was a good deal. We have Afghans appreciated that very much,
Mhm.
and
They just didn't want us staying for 20 years. Is that it?
exactly.
And so we left. We are leaving now. And where does that leave Afghanistan? What do you think? Will Sharia law be reintroduced?
Unfortunately, I don't see any way out for keeping the Taliban out.
This is what's so
This is how they
disturbing.
used to.
Yeah, both Muslim and non-Muslim critics of Muhammad
Yeah,
can be executed, homosexuals, a thief's hand off. You know, it's just a really brutal, brutal black and white kind
Exactly.
of rigidity. I fear for the country. And this is, if you can see this map in terms of, and you're saying it's worse now, of where the Taliban strongholds are. And you can see that's right outside of Kabul
Kabul.
here too.
yeah,
And you think it's even more dark green at this point then
Exactly,
also.
yeah.
Okay, and lots of contested areas. Well, thank you for that history of Afghanistan. It's incredible, and we've only just barely touched the surface, but now we're going to move into Hassan's personal story and how he integrates with all of this. So tell us about the village that you were born in.
village of Khanabad. That's a little sleepy town, about 2,000 now. Even today, probably about 2,000 or 3,000. It was, and you can see this is how the homes were there, and people didn't have any running water, no electricity. Nobody had electricity at that time in the whole country, except a palace.
But you had reservoirs in each of these courtyards, I
What we
guess.
had
right?
is they diverted water usually in the villages
Mm,
from the river, and then they would come in a ditch going
Okay.
from home to home to home, and each home had a little reservoir area where they collected the water, and that's what they used for cooking, for drinking, for washing and everything.
It sounds like what the Romans did too. And these are cooking huts, is that correct?
In those days, and even today, probably in most
Mm.
places in those areas, they cook outside, outdoor, because
Keep the smoke out.
keep the
Yeah,
smoke out
right.
from the living quarters,
Yeah.
which over here is the
Right.
living quarters.
Uh-huh. Yeah, right. So it's
And,
much healthier.
Yeah, and
I love the donkeys down here too.
and then the transportation in those days, we had a fleet of donkeys and horses.
You did. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think that's fascinating, and always surrounded by beautiful mountains. And here's your weekly market, one
Yeah,
day a
we had
week, right?
one day a week. They called it Rose Bazaar or Market Day, and then we have, in front, yellow is the quince,
Quinces. I rarely see that.
Yeah.
And
and then we have plum and plum again,
plums and lots of grapes.
and lots of grapes.
Wonderful, but you can't make wine out of it, can you? You have to eat the grapes, right?
They did in the
They-
communist regime.
Oh, they did. Oh, and
That
here's
was
a.
another point bullet.
I
Mm,
see. Yeah, that would be a point of
Okay, this is
contention.
my family. I'm there, and this is in 1952. I was a senior near graduation from high school. And my mother is to my left,
Right here, this pretty woman right here, tiny.
tiny women.
Because you're so tall, Hassan.
Look at my brother.
I know this is now. How many wives did your father have? So these are not all your full
No.
siblings. Some are half siblings, and
He
so-
had one wife, my mom, my
okay.
mother.
Uh-huh.
Then he married my brother's mother, but
Okay.
he grew up with me and with my mother because his mother couldn't take it anymore, and she asked for a divorce. And
Because there were too many wives.
no, that was it. She
Oh.
couldn't stay in Kabul. Didn't
Oh,
like it.
I see. Okay.
Went
Okay.
back to her village, and that
Oh,
was it.
I see. It was too modern because you're in Kabul at this point,
Yeah.
I guess, aren't you?
Yeah.
You had moved there
Oh,
from your
yeah.
village.
Well,
Okay.
And then these are all my nieces and nephews.
That's quite an extended family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my brother had 9 daughters, one
Oh
after
my
another.
gosh.
And then he had a son. He said, "Okay, that's enough."
That's okay. Finally got the boy. Right, right.
Yeah.
And so you were a star student at your high school, I guess. weren't
This
you,
is
Hassan?
my former high school, Habibia, and
In
the
Kabul.
Kabul. And right there, we see the door.
Yes.
If you go in there, there's the principal's office.
Uh-huh. And now who were your teachers at that school?
As that teacher, we had Americans and Afghans side by side as administrators, and most of them as teachers.
So that means you were taught English at a pretty young age, I guess.
Yes,
weren't
we
you?
started in 4th grade.
Fourth grade plus Farsi. You
With Farsi and Pashto and a little bit Arabic.
So quadrilingual.
Yeah,
Is that
because
am I saying
Arabic is
that
the
right?
language of the Quran, and we had to learn them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And so we started English until 7th grade. Then we continued until 12th grade. When 7th grade, then we started taking our math and science subjects in English.
Wow. And
E-
it's fairly
Even if an
rigorous.
Afghan teacher taught it, he had to teach it in English.
Wow. Wow. And a pretty rigorous curriculum, it sounds
That's
like.
right. And
Okay.
one other item, I learned more about Twinkle Twinkle's a little star over there before anybody else knew it.
Is that-
Yeah, our teachers, Mrs. Grekus, she taught us biology, and Mrs. I don't remember her last name, but she was a real pretty lady.
Was she American or
Yeah,
Afghani?
no,
Okay. Okay.
really not.
Teaching you a bit
She
of
taught us
American
all
culture.
American culture,
Uh-huh.
American songs.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you'll have to teach us some Afghani children's songs. Now you graduated, I think, at the top of your class and then were sent to the United States.
Yeah, the Ministry of Mines in Afghanistan gave me a scholarship to come to the U.S. and study geological engineering.
In Colorado, which is a
in
great
Colorado
school.
School of Mines.
Those mountains must have made you feel at home then.
It really does.
Good, good,
does, yeah.
wonderful. And then you
Then we are 5 years on the 5th year in college. On my last year, in Colorado Mines. I met a young lady there, Teresa Ramirez.
So a little Catholic girl marrying a little Muslim boy, right?
That's the way you know, what do they say?
The
Like and likes attract,
Yes, yes. So
North and South Pole.
must have done pretty well because Teresa is still here. And
Yeah.
you've had a very happy life together, it looks like.
Anyway, she was going to the University of Denver and working in the daytime. And
Okay,
anyway, when we married, we went to Idaho, where I have been working there with the Idaho Bureau of Mines.
okay.
And
Okay.
she went also to school there, and a year later we graduated. I got my master's degree in geology, and she got her bachelor's in business administration.
Wonderful. You're
And
set
then-
for success. But then what happened?
And then we packed up and went to Afghanistan.
Which must have been quite a
It
trip
was.
for Teresa,
It
especially
was.
too.
I don't know what caused you and what she thought. Oh no, what did I
Who
get
did I marry?
myself
What did I
into?
marry into?
Anyway, but she was quite supportive of me. We went there, and I was assigned the director of the research department in petroleum exploration of Afghanistan in northern Afghanistan, town of Mazar-e-Sharif. So there we were about a year and a half, and they gave a job to Teresa also to open up a library and organize it
And wasn't that one of the first libraries that you were telling
in
me about?
Mazar, yeah.
Yeah, a technical library. And then you had to spend a year in the military, the Afghan military. Is
Well,
that correct?
after that, we were transferred to capital. I was working for the Ministry of Mines as Director General of Mineral Survey, and after that, I was sent to Russia. Well, that in the meantime, my wife was getting
She was pregnant, so you sent
She
her
was
home, I
pregnant.
guess, right?
and we decided that we had run out of cash, not much left, and I didn't want to take bribes or anything. So we decided that she should come back to Colorado and have the baby there. And also, I had to go to the army to serve a year there as a military personnel.
But you were in the infantry, but fortunately there was no conflict going on when you were in the military. Is that correct,
That
Hassan?
was the best time to be in the
Exactly,
army.
right. So there's your cap and everything and your uniform. And fortunately, it was a nice, peaceful, full period, I guess.
It was peaceful.
But you wanted to get back to the United States
Okay,
for,
what in the United States, what happened that after the army, I went back to my old job, and then I got an opportunity to go to Russia and become a head of delegation to a 1 month United Nations conference there.
it's fascinating that you were in the Soviet Union in the 60s when very few Americans were there.
And now I'm surprised that my gate to freedom was Soviet Russia.
Because you sent a letter of resignation, is that correct? What would, if you had gone back to Afghanistan telling them that you were leaving, you would have been put in jail, is that
I
right?
would have been, yes.
Because they paid for your education. They wanted, you were very valuable to
Exactly.
them.
Exactly. But anyway, after I completed that and gave my report and resignation, I took a ticket from Moscow to West Berlin,
Uh-huh.
and then from there, air ticket to New York and then Denver.
Okay. I guess life was just too hard in Afghanistan. You just weren't making enough money and you would have had to take bribes, I guess, if you were going to make
And I
enough.
didn't want to do that.
Okay, I see. So now we have you safely back in the United States. You had not seen your wife for what, a year?
A year and a half, or
And your baby, your son.
the baby. Well, the son I hadn't seen for a year and 2 days.
And so you knock on the door in
He was-
Denver where
I-
she's staying.
I knocked on the door and she, what? Oh, no. We were so excited, both of us. And then Wally was looking at me strangely.
Wally's your
with
son. right?
suspicion, yeah.
Uh-huh. He didn't know who his dad was.
Who is he? Anyway, to fast forward, this is my family.
A handsome family. You have a son
Son,
and a daughter, Lila.
Lila, that
Beautiful
was on
name.
her graduation day from Colorado University. and myself and Teresa. Lila calls her Mother Teresa.
Oh, that's so sweet. And this little critter right here is,
That was Lila
that's Lila. It's a
when
really
she was
sweet
a year
picture,
old.
really beautiful picture. So a wonderful family. They're healthy and smart. And so you were kind of on your way with the next generation after your kids grew up then, right?
Yes,
There's a grandchild.
that's it.
And here's your son, who is the spitting image of his father. And then here's your daughter,
Daughter, and
Lila,
then
with
Mother
Teresa, and she had 3 girls.
3 girls. The oldest one is on the right.
Okay, and
then the
twins.
twins.
Lovely. And then you have another grandson over here, this
That's
good-looking kid.
Wally's grandson.
Wally's grandson?
Mhm.
So this is your great-grandson? Oh my
great-grandson.
gosh, okay, so it's quite a lot of Aliefs that we
And
have
his
in the
name is
world.
Alexander, so I call him Alexander the Great.
I hope he appreciates that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, wonderful, you've got a lovely family. And how was your career going then? So,
My career started in when I came back, 6 years with Homestake Mining Company,
uh-huh,
in mining and exploration, and then I switched to Chevron, worked with them for 17 years.
uh-huh.
They sent me all over the world, all over the country and all over the world.
Tell me what happened when you moved to Utah for a short period of time with one of the
That was
companies.
during when I worked for Homestake Mining Company. They sent me there to evaluate some properties they had there.
Okay, you were a young man
Yeah,
then,
and
yeah.
it's the 1969, 68, 69, 70, 71. I was in Utah. And, but
Now, a Mormon state, how did they deal with a young Islamic Afghani man?
not very well, I'm sorry to say. People are nice. The people that worked with me, they were very nice.
Mm-hmm,
But when you would try to find a house, rent or buy, they wouldn't even rent it to us, and they wouldn't buy.
You could not get a
Couldn't
loan.
buy.
What
Couldn't.
happened?
What they told us that this is a Mormon country.
And you even tried to volunteer at school, didn't you?
I told them that I would like to teach part-time,
Uh-huh.
or volunteer or whatever. The principal just flatly told me that those jobs are for children of Utah.
Of Mormons only.
That's it.
And so Chevron had to what, buy a house for you? And
Chevron, they buy a house for themselves and rent it to me.
was that the first and last time you really encountered some real discrimination in the United States?
I would say that is it.
Well, that's very fortunate then too, but
Yeah,
but
I worked in South Texas. That's a conservative country. I was
Yes.
never treated badly.
you could get loans, you could rent and live where you wanted
Well,
to.
I lived in a ranch there,
Okay, oh, that's
Chevron.
probably another whole story.
Chevron Ranch. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, that is good, although a stain on Utah, but
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
glad to
sorry to
hear.
say that, but that's what it is.
Okay, all right. And so moving along here, we're gonna move forward a little bit, and you got your citizenship.
Yeah, in 1972, when I became a citizen,
Would you like some chips? It's
when I became a citizen,
okay. You became a citizen and you were
the
awarded a,
manager at our office in Denver, I arranged for this medal, American citizen, Hassan, Alief. In the middle, you can hardly see it, but on the bottom, it says July 21st, 1972.
You gained your citizenship. I wanted to go back one slide for a second, because although you worked for Chevron for 17 years, is that right?
Yeah.
You also started your own consulting company where you were an expert in finding gold, right?
Gold, uranium.
In countries,
copper.
primarily, where did you travel then?
I traveled when I was consulting. That was a very rewarding job. In Kazakhstan, I spent about a whole year there managing projects for a Canadian company.
Wow, and your family would come and meet you then, right? As you
No,
were
not
traveling?
then the children were grown up.
Oh, okay, but before that, I guess they did. So,
Teresa came in one. I used to go 28 days there and then take 28 days off.
okay, I
So
see.
when I came off the next October, I took her with me.
So Teresa's been all around the world, and your children, when you were working for Chevron, I guess, they would
Yes.
come and meet you
Yes.
and take round the
I
world.
was in
tickets.
Sudan for 2.5 years on behalf of Chevron, managing a mining exploration company for them.
Mhm.
And they agreed to send the family with around the world ticket and stay in Sudan and in Europe.
So you'd go meet them in Paris for a
I
few
used
days?
to go. I used to go to Paris or London or Milan or whatever, and
And meet your family, I
meet
guess.
my family, spend a few days there, travel some more in Europe, and then go to
Lucky
Sudan.
kids.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Lucky kids. But yeah, so you're quite the global citizen, it
I
sounds
am,
like, in every continent, I think.
except
Oh,
Australia.
Australia and Antarctica. No mines and no uranium mines in
I would
Antarctica.
like to go to Antarctica, but I don't know
Well,
about
maybe-
Australia.
Yeah, Australia. I'm surprised not Australia with their mining. And so moving forward here, we wanted to talk a little bit about Afghan cuisine.
Well, this is my meatless, which is unlike Afghans. They like meat.
They do all kinds.
Yeah.
Pork.
No
Did they?
pork,
No
no
pork. Okay, but
Yeah.
lamb
You
and
say
chicken.
pork? No.
Okay, and that's the Muslim
Religion, yeah,
faith.
yeah.
Faith.
Yeah. That came from Judaism.
Right.
Because
Because they're
don't-
people of the book.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So Abraham followers. Yes. But
Well,
this
we went-
This
but
looks delicious.
The strip you see, the brown underneath the white stuff, those are the
The eggplant, right?
those are the eggplants that have been sautéed and
And smothered with yogurt.
smothered with. Then that on top of it, you put some yogurt, a little bit liquefied yogurt. Yogurt is more solid, so that it can be runny. And then on top of that, we have sautéed onions, and you put a little bit of turmeric sauce on it
Oh,
to give it the
turmeric.
yellow
Yes, the coloring.
tinge. Yeah.
And then rice is a major part of your diet. But is
Rice.
that basmati rice then?
Could be
Okay.
not. Yeah.
Okay, not
Afghanistan
necessarily.
had its own rice also.
Does it have a name, or is it just called Afghani rice?
Well, they call it where they came from originally.
Okay,
Dehradun rice, for example, that's the best rice.
it is. Okay.
And that's probably became basmati later on.
And you said there were a couple of restaurants in our area that are good
Yeah.
Afghan restaurants.
There's one restaurant called Chili and Chutney.
And you recommend
And
that for good
definitely.
Afghani cuisine. But you can't get
That's
liquor there, can you? No
No,
alcohol. All
no
right.
alcohol.
Okay. And then moving forward, we have a sample of a Hazara weave. And
Yes.
talk a little bit, we just have a few more minutes. Talk a little bit about the Hazari in Afghanistan.
Hazaras are people that were left behind from Genghis Khan's invasion. So they are originally people of Mongolian background.
Were they considered second-class citizens? Are they
They
discriminated
were
against?
discriminated against, but not as we had here, for example, against the blacks.
I see.
And they
Okay.
were not enslaved already.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're terrific weavers, I
They
guess,
are
right?
traffic weavers, and this is it. Mostly women. Men don't weave. They can't even put a needle,
Thread through a needle. And they use the traditional loom,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes, and the kids learn from their mother.
Okay. So they're valuable citizens in the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
economy. And we are coming to entertainment and culture in Afghanistan. And of course, most Americans are familiar with the Kite Runner. Who is the author of that?
That was
Hassani?
no Hosseini.
Hosseini.
Yeah.
Beg your pardon.
Yeah.
And that's one area that we first started hearing about the different ethnic groups
Yeah.
within
Hazara,
Afghanistan.
yeah.
That the Pashtun, the Hazara,
That
etc.
was Khalid Hosseini, first name Khalid.
Khalid, that's
He's
right.
he's a medical doctor.
He is, but he was
Yeah.
born. He was Pashtun, wasn't he?
Pashtun, yeah.
And it was an amazing story.
Yeah.
And then we have our own author right here of Hassan talking about his brother Stuart.
See how resembles.
Yes, you
each
do.
other?
You do look like twins, which was one of the motivations for writing the book, I guess. If
That's
people
right.
would confuse you.
Stuart, my brother, I was kidnapped when I was a year and a half old, really,
Yeah, I know, by
And,
kind of a gypsies.
by a gypsy. But my Nana, my mother, my grandma, heard my crying and ran out and saved me from the gypsy.
Now, did your brother help with that at all, or
No,
so
no,
that
the
didn't have
brother,
anything to do with
he
your
was
brother?
2.5 years
Oh,
old.
okay, okay.
And my American father and mother, Lovelaces, they were looking there all over for me.
That's a fictionalized story you're
Yes,
telling. Okay,
this is a story from the book now.
okay, okay.
And so, but they left Kabul heartbroken. They couldn't find me.
That's the fictionalized story, but in
Yeah.
real life, you really were kidnapped.
I was kidnapped, and my grandma, my Nana, she heard my voice and she went and saved me from the Coochie or nomad lady.
Nomad lady, that's
I would have
amazing.
been a great camel driver.
On caravans.
Yeah.
And then another popular novel, or is this a nonfiction, Confessions of a Mullah
This is
Warrior?
a nonfiction.
Okay,
He's a Harvard graduate.
uh-huh.
Hmm.
And living in the United States now, or?
Now living in, I don't know where, but in the US, yeah.
And he was he part of?
He was a freedom fighter.
Oh, he was
and
after the
yeah, and he
Russians.
became part of the Taliban.
Did he?
And then he switched over and you see, saw the Taliban were no good, came to the US.
Okay,
And then now he wrote this book.
interesting. That looks like an
Mullah
informative story.
is a
Whoops, sorry.
religious leader.
Exactly, right, right. Mullah. Whoops, I'm going in the wrong direction. Let me go here. And I wanted to kind of end with your thoughts and feelings about what we should take away. And of course, you're an American yourself, but what do we need to understand about Afghanistan and about your culture and religion?
Well, Afghanistan is predominantly a Muslim country,
A Sunni Muslim country.
Sunni Muslim country.
That was pretty tolerant, I guess.
Moderate, tolerant
Yeah.
Muslim country. But the wars and also the Taliban uprising, coming up of Taliban, it's become divided.
And radicalized. Would you say that that Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, Wahhabism, had an undue influence on Afghani religion?
Mostly on a minority of it,
But they
on the Pashtuns.
but they're a
especially.
loud minority, aren't they?
Yeah.
And a powerful minority.
Exactly.
So country, this would be a form of Wahhabism, I guess, then.
Well, that's what will happen, Sharia.
Yeah, and that's what
Sharia law.
is practiced in Saudi Arabia. What do you think about family life and paternalism? What should we understand?
Well, the father usually was the breadwinner over there in the
Mhm.
old days.
Mhm.
Women stayed home, taking care of the family.
Even in the 60s, when it was more Western, were women encouraged to work and get educated?
Okay, yes, and also one other thing in the present government, the women have a quota in the House.
Uh-huh.
25% of the House members must be women.
That's right. And they are, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also the same as the Senate.
Oh, that is fantastic.
And also many of the ministers are now women.
And in the judiciary too, is that what
The
you're referring to?
judiciary also.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Judiciary, well, the whole constitution was patterned about the US.
Yes, right. So you had a three-part government.
Three-part, the government, the executive, which is the president,
Right, right.
and then judiciary. The judiciary, the law, the judges are superior judges are appointed by the president, subject to approval of the House.
I see. Okay, right, right. Yeah. So it's those women that we're really going to be watching and worrying about.
They are, and they're concerned.
What about children and raising children in Afghanistan?
They love children. They spoil them to heck.
Do they? But they don't seem to have loud temper tantrums, or do they?
Oh yes, I know I did
Oh,
personally.
you did. That's right. You were crying one time because you
For
didn't get
rice. I didn't have rice that day, and I was crying. Give me bread, give me anything. No, I want rice.
You wanted rice regardless of what your parents could actually get, and you got it. Well, I guess
yeah.
your uncle went out and
Yeah,
got it.
my uncle pawned his own watch and bought me.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So children are really precious, but they're not, how would you compare them to American children? Or to
Uh,
your own children, the way you were raising your own children?
well, I didn't see any different.
Okay,
My
okay.
mother really loved us.
Yes, right. And
And
did everything she could for
oh,
you. Yeah, right, right, right.
Mm.
And what would you say about multi-generational households in Afghanistan versus the United States?
Well, over there, people lived together 3, 4 generations.
Ah, so you had babysitters and
Yeah.
children were around grandparents and
I want to go to the movie. Okay, my grandpa or my father or my mother or somebody will look after.
right, right.
The
You see that
kids.
in a lot of Middle Eastern and actually a lot of additional countries besides the West, I guess.
Sure.
So elderly people are not siloed away.
No, they are really revered.
Revered, right? Yeah, and of course we talked about religion, how important it is.
It is very important, the religion, and if you don't believe it, it's up to you, but you don't want to antagonize.
And nothing is forced on
No,
anyone, or
no.
certainly not
Religion
executed.
is just, there is no compulsion in religion. That's in
Right.
the Quran.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very good word for it too, compulsion.
So you're
And
not
then-
compelled to believe in it.
Right, right. You're an autonomous individual. And then your arrival in Laguna Woods Village. Let's end with you telling us about how you ended up in Laguna Woods.
In 2016, after, I don't know, that's 26 years, after 26 years of consulting,
Uh-huh.
I decided to hang it up. And we decided to come to California because our daughter Layla lived here.
Uh-huh. She's in Irvine, I guess.
Now she lives in
Okay.
Irvine, yeah. And so we came in and stayed with him for a couple of weeks or so. We found an apartment and lived there for about a year. And Layla said that there are some nice senior communities here.
Ah.
And so, okay, we took a tour of this really ugly place,
Oh, no.
which I fell in love with. Anyway, we saw this, and next thing,
You
we
saw a Laguna Woods Village, right?
Laguna
Yeah.
Woods
Uh-huh.
Village.
Mhm.
They had tours, they used
Yes,
to take
right.
you around.
Yeah.
And when we went back there, we talked about it, said, well, let's find a place to go there. Live
So you
there
liked it.
instead of the apartment. Yeah.
And you've been pretty busy since you've been here. Besides working with Concerned Citizens as their treasurer, what other groups do you belong
I
to?
belong to College Club.
Okay,
and
okay.
And also to Writers Club, but Writers, I think, is falling apart.
Is it really? I'm
Yeah,
sorry to hear that.
unfortunately.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. And also I attended a few of the history club, but I decided not to continue.
Actually, I'd love to listen
That's
to you
too
in the
much,
history club.
too
Yeah,
much.
you're too much, and you've got
And then
children and grandchildren here, so you've got a lot of,
the grandchildren, I just dearly love them.
and they're near you, so that's
And they're
terrific.
both senior now. The twins are seniors in college.
Oh,
And there's
wow.
one senior is majoring in engineering at the Harvey Met College.
That's fantastic.
And she tells me, I love you more than you love me. I said, okay, how much? And she puts infinity 3 times.
Oh, that's
And
great.
I
That's
tell her,
wonderful.
you know, as an engineer, that's not possible.
That's wonderful, though.
So we joke a lot.
That's wonderful. Well, I think our time has come to a close, and I want to thank Hassan for all the work he put in and the incredible education that I got, and that I hope our viewers and members get about this incredibly complicated ancient country of Afghanistan. And so thank you very much, Hassan, and I'll pass this back to you, Sue. Let me go ahead and minimize this. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Concerned citizens, thanks, Mr. Alief and Ms. Siri, for putting together this colorful presentation. They have offered us a window into Afghanistan's history, geography, religion, and culture, as well as insight into the life experiences of yet another fascinating Laguna Woods resident. We invite you to join us for another informative program next time.